Good evening, guys. Thanks for coming and watching me give my last speech. This is going to be a persuasive speech on why I believe Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Some of you were here last time and saw how much I love my Cincinnati Reds, and there's a few reasons that I love them. One, Barry Larkin. Two, they're my hometown team, and I love baseball. And three is Pete Rose. Pete Rose, as a player, did everything right. He was the epitome of being better than what you were supposed to be. Now, Pete Rose did admit that he gambled on baseball. However, he said, and it's hard to believe one way or the other, he might have just did it to try to get sympathy to get back into the Hall of Fame, and he might have did it because that's really what happened. He really did bet on baseball. However, and it wasn't until December 12, 2003 that Pete Rose admitted that he did gamble on baseball. He said that he only gambled on baseball as a manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and he only gambled on baseball that his team would win. This is according to Reds.com, Reds.CincinnatiInquirer.com. Now, Pete Rose, it was in 1989 that the manager at the time, Giamatti, went to Pete Rose and said, "Pete, we believe you've been gambling." And they had an investigation, and they said serious allegations were at hand. Now, nothing was ever found. Giamatti admitted that there was no formal findings, that they had no proof. However, on August 24, 1989, Pete Rose was effectively banned from baseball. What that means is he could never get into the Hall of Fame. If he ever went to a game, he had to pay his way in. So he could not, if you're a player, you go to the games for free, especially if you're one of the best players to ever play for that franchise. They have memorabilia, they bring you back at times. He can't do any of that. They can't sell his jersey. He gets no sales. Like, if anything of his is sold by an MLB franchise, he gets no money for it. It's all part of being banned from baseball. Now I'm going to tell you why I believe Pete Rose either didn't gamble as a player, couldn't affect the outcome, and it should be put into the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose, I'm sorry, let me stop there. You cannot gamble as a player in a game that you can control the outcome of. It's illegal by the United States government. It is actually, you can't be a coach, a manager, you can't be affiliated with the game at any way, or it is illegal to gamble on the game. This is hardly ever enforced, however, because nobody puts a name to their bet. So even though it is illegal, people believe it still happens. Now in baseball, there's three people that I believe can actually fix a game and get away with it. One would be a starting pitcher. Any pitcher, really. You can throw right down the middle. You can not have your best stuff on any given day. Who's to say that you don't have some money on the game? Because it's an easy change. If you go out and you have a bad day, nobody will know. They'll just think that you got rocked. And I think a catcher could also control that. They could tip off the pitches, tell them what's coming, let them know what's coming. I've never heard reports of it happening, but it's possible. And thirdly, I think the manager, the team could, because he could sit his best players, or he could bring a pitcher out too soon, or keep him in too long, and directly control the happenings of the game. A right fielder / second baseman / first baseman / third baseman / left fielder / right or center fielder cannot control the outcomes of the game like this unless he A, doesn't get hits, which Pete Rose has the most hits of all time, and B, if you don't make plays on defense, in which Pete Rose is a two-time Gold Glove winner. Those are from Fangraph.com, their stats. Peter Edward Rose, better known as Pete Rose, or Charlie Hustle, nicknamed to him because he played like it was Game 7 of the World Series at all times. He was born in Cincinnati, Ohio on April 14th, 1941. He grew up in Cincinnati, and he went to Western Hills High School. He was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds directly out of high school, in which he played 24 seasons for the ball club. 24 seasons in the pros, 19 of which were played as a Cincinnati Red. He played 5 years with the Philadelphia Phillies, and he spent 1 year with the Montreal Expos. And that was according to BaseballReference.com. Pete Rose, as I said earlier, he played any position asked of him. He was a two-time Gold Glover in right field, but late in his career he also played third base and first base because he did not have the range or athletic ability to stay in the outfield. Oftentimes, when you think of a team or you think of a city, you think of a person. While Pete Rose was playing baseball, he was known as Cincinnati. He was hardworking. He was underappreciated. He was not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, not the best looking. However, he was always there, and you always knew what you were going to get out of him. And that's why people called him a Cincinnatian, because people who worked in Cincinnati and lived in Cincinnati were hardworking. They weren't the most athletic. They weren't the most skilled. But you knew every day what you were going to get out of them. And that's why Cincinnati fans loved Pete Rose. Now, Pete Rose had one of the best baseball careers of all time. Pete Rose, as I mentioned earlier, is the hit king. He has 4,256 career hits. That is 67 more than who people can sometimes consider, arguably, the greatest baseball player of all time, named Ty Cobb. He was a Yankee, a great Yankee back in the day. And then, in retrospect, Derek Jeter is a New York Yankee now, and he is the closest to Pete Rose under active players. He has 952 hits behind Pete at 3,304. This is also according to BaseballReference.com and Fangraph.com. Now, it would take, estimated, Derek Jeter, he averages, I think I saw 175 hits a year. It would take him at least 5 more seasons with that average to break that record. To come close to that record, not even break it. Now, Pete Rose, reasons I believe Pete Rose did not gamble on baseball or affect any outcome. He's the all-time hits leader. He ranks first all-time in games played. If you're betting against your team, you might take a day off or two, there's other people that have played 24 seasons in MLB baseball. It's not unlikely. However, they never played as many games as Pete. He's first in all-time career at-bats, which, again, if you are trying to change the outcome of the game, you're not going to have all those at-bats. He is the most prominent switch hitter of all time. He didn't hit for home runs, but he did hit for power, and he has the most total bases as a switch hitter. He's second all-time in doubles with 746. He also has he's tied for the second longest hit streak ever with 44. Pete Rose, he's famously quoted as he came off the field and he said the pitcher was pitching like it was Game 7 of the World Series out there. And he was hot. I watched an interview with him. He was pretty upset. It wasn't like it is now. People weren't as politically correct. And Pete let it be known that he was not happy that he did not get that hit streak. Pete won 3 World Series. He won 2 with the Cincinnati Reds as a member of the Big Red Machine, which had Joe Morgan and Eric Dicker. No, not ED. Sorry, wrong. But some of the greatest players to ever play the game. And Pete stood right up. And in fact, in 1975 was the World Series MVP. Now, if you are trying to throw a game, you're not going to be the best player in that series. You're not going to bet against yourself, and you are not going to throw the game. When you're obviously voted MVP, best player in the World Series at the biggest stage. Pete won 2 Gold Gloves in 1969 and 1970 as a right fielder, which meant his defense was the best well, it was only outfielders then, so he was one of the best 3 defensive outfielders in the league for those 2 seasons. You're not going to play great defense if you're trying to determine the outcome. Pete Rose. There's a few famous quotes that I'd like to tell you a little bit about who Pete Rose was as a player. Once he was quoted as saying, "I'd walk through hell in a gasoline suit to play baseball." Playing baseball for a living is like having a license to steal. And when you think of somebody throwing a game or betting on a game, they're going to throw it. That's what people are afraid of, that they're going to determine the outcome. They're not afraid that they're going to bet on their team to win and then win. That's not why people are afraid. They're going to be afraid that you're going to throw the game. And Pete Rose said, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. And I believe in letting the other guy lose. That shows you who Pete Rose is as a baseball player. He was a baseball player who wanted to win. He had the career stats to be in the Hall of Fame. And as a baseball player, he should be in the Hall of Fame. So I just want to thank you guys again for coming to my last speech, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.